Howdy folks, welcome to this episode of The Weekend Angler. In last week's video, you saw me build this homemade fishing rod, and that's part of a challenge that I've got going on right now with Kris from Muddy River Catfishing. He and I discussed this at the Catfish Conference in February, and we've decided to do the DIY Rod and Reel Challenge. Last week we both built our rods, posted our videos. I posted a link to his video and mine. And this week we've got our builds up for our reels. Guys, I showed you the reel that I've come up with. It's kind of a center pin fly reel. And I'm going to take you through the build process. It's not going to be quite as concise as the rod build. Basically because I built this as I was recording the video, and I did change a few things as I was going along, just as problems presented themselves. Guys, take a look. I'll show you what I came up with. This is the DIY reel video. This is part 2 of the DIY Rod and Reel Build Challenge. Guys, the first thing I'm going to do in this reel build is I'm going to go ahead and get our reel seat completed. And what I'm going to be using this 3/4 inch angle and a piece of 1/8 inch flat stock. I'm going to be attaching that just like that, and that will sit alongside that rod, and we'll put that reel in line with those eyes on that rod. So I've already done the measurements. I'm going to need to get me a piece of, or the angle piece is going to need to be 2 3/4 inches. The flat stock piece is going to be 3 inches. So we'll go ahead and get that cut and get everything marked. Get my tape measure out here. We'll be using this scribe. This is a good way to get everything marked. So right now, let's see. That's set right at 3 inches, so let's go ahead and mark our flat stock piece. I don't know if you guys could see that or not, but that scriber just makes a shiny little line there, and it's right at 3 inches. Let's mark that down to 2 3/4. That's 2 7/8. That's a good 2 3/4 right there. Yep. So let's mark our angle. And we're going to be using this little miter box that came with this hacksaw. I get this put in there. We'll use this hacksaw and we'll get this cuts made. Alright, we got that piece cut, and we ended up, this is our 3 inch piece, and I ended up deciding to go, our tag end was 3 3/4. And when I put that on this 3/4 angle like that, that's going to leave us right at 3 inches of clearance. So I'm actually, the scrap piece is going to end up being better there. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to hit each of these with the wire wheel. This has a little bit of a burr where I made the cut. I don't know if you can see that or not. I'm going to take that burr off. I'm going to round the bottom of this part here, get this hit with the wire wheel. We'll be ready to get the welder out and connect these two pieces together. Alright guys, now that all this has been squared away, the last thing I have to do is take the angle grinder and round off the corners of this. I'm going to take the sharp edges off of it. And then we'll be getting the welder out. And it's not going to be a pretty weld. I use I don't have a MIG, I have a flux cord welder. And that flux core wire, or that wire welder, it kind of makes a mess of things, but it makes a structural good weld. So we'll get that tacked just like that, run a bead down both sides, or run a bead across the top, and run a bead right to the inside of that V. It's not going to go anywhere when we're done. So guys, I'm going to put my face shield back on here. Put this back on the bench grinder and get these, like I said, get this rounded off. So give me just a moment, we'll be ready to weld this together. Definitely much safer now. We're not going to get hung up on that thing. We're ready to get this piece put on. So guys, I'm going to get the welder out and we'll get this all squared away. Alright folks, this is, like I said, it wasn't going to be a pretty weld. I got to chip the slag off of that still, but there we go. That has 4 beads run down it, one on each side, one at the top, one at the back, and so I'm going to get the chip and hammer. I'm going to knock all that off of there, and then we'll take the angle grinder. We'll try to make that look halfway decent, and then that thing will be ready for a coat of paint. We'll move on to building the spool. So I'm going to take this part off. We're done with the welder itself now. Alright guys, don't make too much fun of my welds here. I'm not a welder at all. I don't claim to be one. I've never played one on TV. But that is functional. That's not going to go anywhere. It's a very, very bad looking weld, I know. But it will hold. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to hit this with the wire wheel one more time, get everything cleaned off of it the best I can, and then I'm going to lay out some shop towels on my bench and give this a shot of black spray paint. That'll just help prevent any rust from forming on this thing. So guys, let me get that part done. I'll show you the finished project of that, and then we'll continue working on our reel. And there we go. It needs a little bit of sanding, but there's the center of our reel spool. It's a 3/4 inch piece of 3/4 inch thickness of 1x4. It's been cut with a 3-inch diameter hole saw. The next step, I'm going to be using a 4-inch diameter hole saw and cutting the sides of the spool, which are going to be 1/8 inch thick aluminum plate. Guys, there's our first reel side, or spool side. Alright, now we know the spool has an inset of 1/2 inch. So we'll go ahead and drop this down in there just to keep everything aligned. And we're going to trace around that inner part of the spool. Alright, here's our machine screws. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those. That's the number 10s. We have 2 of the number 8s. Those will go through that way. And the number 8s are a little bit longer. I'll show you why here in just a minute. Let's go ahead and get our number 10 machine screws tightened down. And that's now through, and even just putting a piece of threaded rod through there, notice how easily that spins. But I've got plans for this. Alright folks, we're just about done with this project, and this is what is going to become the spindle on our reel. As you can see, I've gone ahead and gotten threads cut where they need to be, and however, in the process of cutting the threads, I had to chuck this up into the vise, and I have marred our bearing surface just a little bit. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be chucking our spindle up into the drill, or into the drill press, and I've got some of this very fine emery cloth. I'm going to hold that on there and allow the drill press to spin this around on this emery cloth, and we'll just clean this up just a little bit. Guys, let me take that over there. I'll show you what I'm going to do with it, and then we'll come back, we'll get the reel assembled. That on there. Then we'll have a rubber washer, and we'll stack fender washers on there. I'll show you how this would work. Fender washer, rubber washer, fender washer, rubber washer, fender washer. See, I'm making a washer sandwich there. And this is going to serve two purposes. This is going to act as our spool tensioner, so that we hopefully don't have any backlashes when we go to cast this. It's also going to act as our drag. We'll tighten that up a little bit more once we do that. But that's what it's basically going to look like. One of the things I have left to do on this I have got to epoxy our bronze bushing into the spool, and I actually bought 2 of those bronze bushings because I knew I would be test fitting one over and over and over, and I am starting to notice just a few little bitty pits from where I was trying to get everything through there. So I'm going to take a fresh bronze bearing, going to epoxy it into the spool, let that sit, and then we'll get everything slapped together. We'll be good to go. Alright guys, the epoxy is set up. Everything's been assembled here. Let me show you exactly what I come up with for this reel. As I showed you before, here is the reel mount, the reel seat. That runs down, a piece of steel. That steel is tapped 1/4 inch by 20. Our spindle runs through the steel. It's secured on the back with a nylock nut. There are 3 1/4 inch washers, flat washers, to space this out enough that the nuts and the bolts don't hit the don't contact the steel. This is a 1 inch long 3/8 to 1/4 inch bronze bushing, and then on the other side of the spool we have a fender washer, a rubber washer, a fender washer, a rubber washer, and another fender washer, and that's finished off with a 1/4 inch wing nut. The number 8 bolts that run through this have hollow nylon spacers on them. Those will function as the handle to our reel, and this wing nut allows us to tighten tension on the spool here. With it all the way loose, our reel will turn. Now mind you, I have not applied any oil to this, so I'm actually expecting it to turn a little better once I get it all oiled up. I'm going to do so after I get the line and everything put on here. But it spins freely. We tighten that up just a shade, and we can actually get this to where it barely turns. We can get that where it's extremely difficult to turn. Now that should function like a drag whenever line is being taken off the reel, or we can tighten that up a little bit if we get a fish and try to wear him out a bit. So guys, the last step on this is to get this attached to the rod, and I probably overbuilt this reel just like I overbuilt the rod, and guys, the overbuilding is about to cease, because the best way that I could figure out how to mount this reel to this rod, good old nylon zip ties. I'll show you how this thing works. This slips over that zip tie, butts up to it. You just pull the trigger. So there's 4 of those. I don't think this is going to go anywhere, and guys, I think we're as good as we're going to be. Alright guys, I know right from the start, let me apologize. This reel build video was nowhere near as concise as the rod build. Part of the reason, probably the main reason of that, is I really built this reel as I was shooting the video. I did it off the top of my head, so I ended up having to change a few things here and there. I actually started out with one other reel seat, and when I went to test fit everything, before I even built the spool, I noticed it wasn't going to line up the way I wanted it to. So I switched over to this one, got it ready to go, and guys, as you can see, It looks awful similar to a center pin fly reel. We'll get that oiled up, we'll get line put on the rod, and we'll be ready to do some testing. I will do a quick video update when I start doing the testing on that, just to see if I can get this to cast. I know that was a major problem that Luke from Cats and Carp was having with his, just trying to get everything to cast, and I've got confidence this one will, but I'm not going to say it's going to do it right off the bat. I think I'm going to have to do a little bit of tweaking to the spool tension, but I think I can get this thing to cast. So guys, I'm going to put a link to Chris's build. I know he actually got his reel done before I did. I'm going to put a link to his video. Go over there, take a look, see what he's come up with, and let me know down in the comments section once you've seen both. Let me know what you think of each of our builds. Guys, if you go over there to Kris, watch his video, let him know what you think of his build also. Now, guys, there's also a few other people that have seen our challenge here and have decided to take it up. I know that Yakking with Sarah, she posted a video the other day. She challenged Country Girl Catfishing, and I believe they're going to be doing a DIY rod and reel build video, and it looks like Catfish Bill 66 and PGH bottom feeders may be doing the same thing. So guys, you may be seeing a lot of these DIY rod and reel challenges. This thing's been a blast. Guys, I would highly recommend you building one of your own. If you do, please leave me a link to the video, to your video. I'd like to see what you come up with. Guys, the sky's the limit when it comes to these. Everybody has their own way of building things. If you are mechanically inclined, if you're not mechanically inclined, either way, I think you can come up with something that'll work. So guys, as always, thank you for watching my videos. Like, share, subscribe. Be sure to leave a comment down below. And if you're on a mobile device, hit that little bell. It's located on the right hand side of your screen, and that'll keep you updated whenever I post a new video or go live. Guys, the fish off to this contest is going to be coming up real soon, probably sometime next month. And guys, we'll see who built the better rod and reel. So guys, until then, we'll catch you out on the water. I appreciate you watching the Weekend Angler.